Thank you for, as I started to say, thank you for all coming on this beautiful day. Shall we go around the table anyways, because it has been our habit? Let's do that. Dan, can we start with you?
Sure. Dan Perry, Director of Public Works,
And his first time here in this building.
first time here.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and Wade's.
Number of us.
And Wayne?
Wayne Sharpenberg, member.
Lisa Bezo Allen, City Council member.
Eric Lorelli, vice chair or co-chair of the agency.
John McConnell?
Carrie Tuckett, deafblind intervener.
Diane Gerhart, committee.
Yeah.
Carol Magnan and Osmond, committee member.
Greg Bowler, committee member.
Ray Levante, Thrive Chat Development Center.
Diane Morrell, accessibility coordinator.
Sumit Thapa, city planning.
Peter Tenazzo, Director of Planning.
Thank you, everybody. And you may have noticed that we don't have Leslie with us today. Leslie is our ASL interpreter, and she has wisely gone on vacation. Good for her, good choice. I do have another announcement. Some of you will remember, some of you may not. Jordan DeRoche, who was a member of our committee, very enthusiastic. I did have an opportunity to meet him when he was in Sioux. He actually lives and works in Ottawa, but he is now a full-time employee of the federal government. And he has found that it just doesn't work to take 2 hours of a schedule on Wednesday afternoons to join us. So rather than tie that spot up that someone else could have, he sent in a very nice word. Jordan is no longer with us. Has everyone had an opportunity to see the minutes of the last meeting, our March 12th meeting? Are there any questions, comments, errors, omissions, things you'd like to change? Seeing none, can we have a mover and a seconder to approve those minutes? Derek moves it and a seconder is Carrie. Craig, sorry, Craig. Craig did. Thank you very much.
Need to do it.
All in favor?
I,
Perfect. And as we always do, does anyone have a declaration of a conflict of interest, which only would kick in if you have a monetary gain from something that we're committed, from something that's being discussed today? Seeing none, we're going to move right on to new business. Diane previously forwarded, the accessible customer service policy. This is in draft. Your comments are welcome. Diane, did you want to do an introduction to that?
sure. Thanks, John. So the accessible customer service policy statement is a public facing document, or will be a public facing document. And it is the basis for formal policies for staff. This follows the legislation. These are the things that we are required to have policies on. The first page gives a little bit of the background why we have it. And then it goes on to several different topics that are in the legislation. So we must have a statement of commitment. We must have a statement on how we provide accessible customer service. We must have something about accessible formats and communication supports. So how we go about providing those. How we will accept people with their assistive devices, and that any assistive devices that the corporation owns, that we will know how they operate. Should anyone with a disability attend and need one of these pieces of equipment. There's also a very important part that we've learned recently with Carol and Osmond, the use of guide dogs and service animals. So how the city is expected to behave when it comes to the use of guide dogs and service animals, and what a guide dog and a service animal is. The use of support persons. So when a support person attends with someone with a disability, that we must accept that there are support people for people with disabilities. And there is also another clause that in this one that if someone attends one of the facilities and we feel that their safety is at jeopardy using our services, or if the safety of a staff member is at jeopardy with having them there, that we may require them to bring a support person to access the goods, services, or facilities. So that's explained in here. Notice of temporary service disruption. So this has also been in the legislation for a long while. And the city is required to provide notice of service interruptions.
Yeah.
So these are unexpected service interruptions. For example, you're planning to go to City Hall and you're planning to visit the tax department to talk about your tax bill. However, when you get there, you find out the elevator isn't working. So you're not able to access the building. We have an obligation to provide a public service announcement or use every means possible to let you know that that accessibility feature is not currently working, if there are any alternatives available, and how long the service disruption is expected to last. So that's on all accessible services, all accessible equipment that the corporation has. There's also a statement on website accessibility, and currently our new website is being developed and populated. And when our new website is up, all of the web content shall meet accessibility guidelines. It also requires that we provide training to city staff, volunteers, and third-party contractors on accessibility and on the Human Rights Code. And that's the training that we all took relatively recently. And that we shall have an accessible customer service feedback process, so that when you attend at a city facility or receive a city service, if your accessibility needs were not met, that we have a formal feedback process for that. And then modifications. If this policy is modified, we will communicate that to staff using our Flex LMS learning management system to communicate that to staff so they know what what the changes were. Anyone have questions on this?
Greg, go ahead.
Question through you, Mr. Chair, to Diane, that in the city policy, it says the standard for the website. Which set of standards are we using? There are a number of different, I know that the website development has been a ongoing concern for years. And make sure we were using the most current of standards.
Yes.
There's some conflict between Ontario and US standards, various others. It's a bit of a hodgepodge, for lack of a better term.
Yes. So the current standard is the WCAG, and I forget what the WCAG, but it's 2.0 AA. So it basically requires that all information on our website, with the exception of live captioning, our live captioning is not as accurate as a recorded video. That basically everything with that exception shall be accessible. Yeah.
And I know that was an issue because when you started studying and then doing the development. And it became an exercise because some of the staff knew some of the standards and that was evolving as we was being developed. That's what concern was.
Yes, yes. So our new website, we've been assured, will be WCAG 2.0 AA compliant with that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was
And I think just to add to that, I think the challenge isn't necessarily the website design, it's the documents that people are uploading to the website. So it's the actual PDFs and how they were created, and I think that's where the time lag
It
is
is,
right now. It's
even
a
with
challenge.
the
Maps.
municipal autism strategy map, that was a big issue in trying to
Yeah.
get that accessible, ironically.
Yeah.
Just to follow up, is there like a time frame on getting this complete?
The
And I would ask, like, who's the person who's responsible for this?
Well, right now the website is built, so the frame is in place. And
It's
Zoe
Dr. Darby.
right now is merging content from the old website over to the new website. So she's doing that along with a whole bunch of other duties. So my understanding is she's working with the department to say,
Sorry, I missed that. Who's she?
Zoe,
Oh, okay.
Tessa works with Tessa.
Okay.
yes, yes, in
So
communications.
they're the ones responsible for, they're migrating everything over right now.
And in the migration, they're having a lot of,
It's a
well,
lot.
yeah, there's a whole lot on the old site, and trying to bring it up to speed must be.
Yes, and how much of the old content needs to be migrated over, so those decisions are being made, and I understand she's working with each department to decide how they want the content brought over to the new website, what kinds of things they want brought over, and what can be left behind, what old information can be left behind.
It was a major undertaking, and it's been ongoing for a number of years, Mr. Chair.
Other questions or comments? I do. I have some sort of editorial stuff, but we can talk about that later. They're really piddly. But on page 3, under accessible formats, you talk about, we offer to communicate with customers in person, by email, by phone, and by Bell Relay services. Do we actually use Bell Relay services?
It can be used, but the corporation doesn't know it exists. We can call someone who is deaf using Bell Relay, and someone who is deaf can call the corporation using Bell Relay to communicate. But at this point, the corporation doesn't know that they can call out to a customer who is deaf to do this.
So the system is in place. We don't use it.
We haven't
We
yet.
haven't yet.
Because this was not included in the old accessible customer service policy. So this is new. And we've been waiting for formal policies to be developed before this gets rolled out to the public. So that's why it's in draft form. It is not yet public. It is for the committee's
Okay.
knowledge and for the committee to provide feedback. Does this work? Did I get it right? Did we miss something?
Okay, we're gonna get to you, but is there a cost to anybody to use this?
No.
Perfect. Carrie,
And there's
okay.
no system to set up. The system exists for everybody anywhere. It's a matter of training staff to call that number.
Okay,
And it's a 5-minute training how to use it. Really, it's quite simple.
it's all right.
Is it similar to TTY?
You don't need a TTY to use it. It's instead of having a TTY. So you call the Bell Relay, the Bell Relay will voice to the person or type to the person that you're calling. And they will voice or type back, and then the Bell Relay will voice to you.
Okay.
So there's a middleman there, and that Bell employee will translate back and forth however it's needed, whether it be by voice or type. And they're part of that conversation, and you can only speak each taking a turn. Because each side is then translated however it needs be. So it's just practice and getting used to, but it's really just dialing a number and asking them to call the person you want to call.
Yeah.
And
Excellent.
taking your turn, which is hard in today's society, for people to pause and wait for the answer and things like that. But it's quite simple, easy and free.
I'm gonna ask Craig's question before he asks it. Tell me if I'm right here, Craig. How do we then get the message out to people that this exists?
That's a standard concern, Mr. Chair. that
Yeah,
Outreach to the community at large.
right.
Now, the deafblind, your community may know about it, but unless,
Even those specific groups, how do they know about it?
So people that need to use the service are well aware of how to use it and realize that they can call anyone using it. So it would just be really a little bit of training for staff so that if they do get that bell call, they
They know
know
what it
how to communicate
Okay.
very simply. And then if I guess the staff employee had to call out, it's just a matter of calling that number. Honestly, there's very few people that use it, but having it and is powerful and accessible, right?
Yeah.
But no, it's quite simple and the few people who do use it, they know how.
Okay.
Just dialing, the bell relay and then asking them to call the city, whatever department, whatever number they want.
Should we give thoughts to getting the message out to the community as a whole, or just to focus in on those people that would benefit from it? Like, if we're in here, we're quite definite that we are going to provide people with information in whatever format that they need in order to allow them to participate in municipal affairs.
Right, so as Carrie said, the deaf community, the people that will use the service know that it exists.
Not just
And,
that service, but like the wide range of stuff that.
Yeah.
That is available to help people.
in the corporation or.
It's in this policy.
I think when this is
It is
formally
only
released,
applies.
there's a staff training component and then there's a marketing piece. to it.
Okay, that's
Absolutely.
what I was
Yes,
looking
yes,
for.
there will be a communications after,
Perfect.
once it rolls out. Yes.
Any other questions, comments? Thoughts?
The only thing I'm thinking about is, and I mean, and this doesn't really happen with AODA, is when because we did do the sensory, so we do have some of our folks that are highly sensory that have, the noise canceling headphones on. Like, how do we incorporate that? Like, is that more of a, equity, diversity, and inclusion thing? Is it part of accessibility? If someone has sensory, like,
So if someone has sensory issues and they need to just have the sensory experience brought down with the sound canceling. I would think, and please tell me if I'm wrong, if that is something that an individual experiences it when they come to visit facilities, they would bring that themselves because that would be their own device.
yeah, but also. If
Maybe
people
there's a
know-
training piece there.
Like, if
This is
people
why this
understand
person.
why,
Yeah, that's training piece, I think.
yeah, they're not
Okay.
just thinking, I've got my headphones on because I'm listening to.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, take your headphones off and
ACDC.
pay attention to what I'm saying.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that could be a training piece.
Yeah, that's just what I was like, that invisible disability, it is often overlooked.
Yes.
Or
thank you.
maybe even being able to provide a quiet room if the environment is a little bit noisy, but that could be good for someone who wants that quiet environment. It could be good for someone hard of hearing, be good, for a lot of different reasons.
Or, people from different cultures that don't feel comfortable in the public eye, like, I know.
Yeah, we've
it's-
got that room. There
Yeah.
is the quiet room that
There
is
is a
on.
quiet room, I thought, yeah. to
There are
the
people
side.
that just want privacy.
Yeah,
It benefits a wide range. of-
Mhm.
yeah.
Any other questions, comments? Seeing none, we're gonna move on. Diane, just next step with this is going to where?
Well, this is the draft. As I read over it again, because I created this first last year in 2024 and then sent it out to the committee for this meeting, 2025. As I read through it, I thought, oh gee, I think I could bring the language a little bit more in line with oh my goodness, clear print guidelines or
Yeah.
plain print.
Yeah.
Plain language. So I've got some work to do on that end as well, and I'll bring it back to the committee afterwards. This will be part of the accessibility plan, which I hope to have to everyone soon. And this is one piece of it. This piece will be what the formal policies for staff will be based on. As a guideline, because staff need policies to follow. When the corporation says, you shall do this because it's in our policies that we will do this. That's what the formal policies will be based on, the principles that are in this document.
And does this for the council?
This will go to council, yes, it will, but it's not ready to go to.
It's gotta go, we gotta go through HR first, so then it becomes one of the formal HR policies.
Mhm.
And I think that's where kind of some of the holdup is. We've gotta get HR's eyes on this and make it a formal city policy, and then the training and everything rolls out after that.
Okay. Makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay,
So happy to have any other feedback on it.
Look at it again.
okay. Moving along, we have two items under old business. both of which are included in a report that Carol and Diana put together on our site plan working group, which is coming up. I'm gonna skip that for the time being. Leap forward and we can talk about our favorite subject, accessible parking violation tickets. Diane, do you have a comment that you'd like to make on this?
Yes, so the stats for 2024, the tickets issued were a total of 40 in the whole year of 2024. And so far in 2025, which is 3 months, there are 12 tickets issued, so it's somewhere in line with about what it was last year. And it's honestly not reflective of the experience in the community.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, where are they?
Yes. It's a matter of consistent ticketing. Consistent enforcement. Which is not happening. Right now, it's a hit and miss. We do have a system whereby any one of us can call N1 Solutions if we see a violation, and they'll do their best to get there as soon as they can, which is great if someone's just running in for 2 minutes, right? So it's a system that doesn't really work. I don't have an answer for it at this time, but I know it's something that will be in our accessibility plan, and it's something that we have to work on. We have to make it better, because people with disabilities that don't have any choices but to use accessible parking because of extra space or because of proximity to the doors and whatnot, it's not acceptable that the abuse is at the level that it is right now.
How many employees do this, and is it a full-time position?
No, that's
or
the
volunteer?
problem. There are staff in the corporation that have been, what's it called?
Deputized?
Deputized, yes,
Yeah,
thank you,
okay.
that have been deputized to issue
Commissioners.
tickets. But they're not commissioners, no, I've been deputized, I'm not a commissioner,
You've been deputized.
to issue tickets just at the John Roads, because that was
Oh,
my home
okay.
location, right?
Yeah, so who is deputized there? Is it like a manager?
There are three full-time staff at the John Road. So there's 2 of the pool staff and the 1 facility manager are deputized. Part of that problem is they work basically 9 to 5, and then nobody is there in the evenings.
That's when it's really bad.
And that's when it's quite bad. That's right. So
Absolutely.
that has absolutely been identified as a problem. And again, you can call N1 Solutions, but by
Well-
the time they get there, they're busy on a call for
Exactly.
something else. It's a contract that the city has with N1 Solutions.
Like one night, and it's 7 o'clock, like we get there, probably 20 after 7. Everyone, and not one of them had a ticket in their window, none of them. So I said to the fellow, and it's not his fault, of course, the guy at the desk where we're paying, and I said, you know, there's no parking for us out there. And he says, yeah, he said, it's an ongoing problem and there's nothing we can do about it.
Make a formal complaint every time you're there and every time you experience that.
Right.
Make a formal complaint, because that is the only way people will begin to realize how rampant
Yeah,
the issue really is.
right.
And that is one facility, 1 day a week or 2 days a week that you're there, Diana, whatever it is.
Yeah, great time.
But that happens 7 days out of the week.
Right, yeah, I know.
Yes.
And I get it in a way, a lot of it's the parents picking up the little ones from their swim lesson. So they're only there a short time. But when they're all there waiting for all of these kids, it's okay, 15-20 minutes, they're all gone.
And it's not okay for 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
It's not
and
okay for
meantime,
2
we have
minutes.
To be in there.
Exactly.
And we can't sit outside waiting, especially in the ice and whatnot, so
Mhm.
it was like, oh my goodness. And I'm happy to see, I'm sorry, again, make it positive, how much the John Road's is being used. And that parking lot, a few times we've been there, we had to park way in the heck, almost to Churchill Plaza. it was like, wow.
Yes,
So.
it's
it's
great to see it well
used.
used, yes.
Exactly.
Yes, so the problem is a really big one, and I don't have a solution, but part of the accessibility plan will be that we'll have to meet with staff to explore this and try to come up with
Yeah,
solutions.
someone that works
A
nights
strategy.
to have,
Yeah.
that
Something,
can go out and give them a ticket. Even if it's just a warning, just go and stick it on their windshield and say, next time you're being charged.
yeah, I don't know that even a warning is
Gonna be worked on.
enough.
And just for the group, we had looked at using cameras to enforce, and that was our legal friends deemed that not to be a feasible
Probably
solution.
not. I'm sure
Um,
it's,
I
I can
think,
dispute
you know,
those.
Doug, we've had a lot of conversations and
Mhm.
I've started trying to pay attention to it. A couple observations I've made is, I think in talking to some of the enforcement groups, they're hesitant to lay charges because, or to write a ticket, sorry, because you can't necessarily see whether the person has a disability or not. And what I've witnessed up more so at the
Yeah.
NCC is people that clearly have a disability, but they forget to show the tag.
Oh,
So that, I think some of that is happening too, and I think the enforcement people just don't really wanna go there.
go there. Well, and or they don't have a ticket, but they're picking up their grandma who would have one normally, and they're
Right.
escorting her to the car.
Yeah.
And they're going, well.
So you're seeing the person leave,
Yeah.
yeah,
it's-
right.
It's a slippery slope. I
And
know,
I've seen it, you know, I'm sure it happens. A
Yeah.
family member has one,
right,
but the family member's not there and you're taking advantage of
Well,
that.
well,
ticket.
yeah.
And I've seen that
Yeah.
happen.
yeah.
Dan, do
Oh.
you think you, like, I do agree, like, call in with the complaints. But if we're paying N1 and if there's no benefit, then would that be worth putting in a report?
No, the way the contract is worded is that they get a percentage of the tickets that are issued for
Okay.
every ticket that is issued. It's not based on time.
Okay.
You know, you're gonna patrol our lots for 4 hours every night. That's how the contract is worded.
So it's probably not worth their while.
Probably for a couple of tickets, probably for about 40 in a year. You know, when they don't have other things on the go, they'll,
That guy's already.
if he's there anyways. So I think it's an imperfect
Yeah.
situation.
I want to comment on those parking permits, just in case people aren't totally aware of this. When you get one, you can get one and it'll say parking permit driver, or let's say I have one. I can't drive, so I gotta depend on somebody to drive me. So I can get a parking permit that says passenger. Letter P, okay? Or if the driver and the passenger need it, you can get one that says driver and passenger. So if you're just a passenger all the time, the best thing is keep that in your pocket or in your purse, so no matter whose car you get in,
But then,
just put it on the windshield.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't put it on the dash, because what happens is when you close the door, the wind picks it up and throws it on the floor, and you get a parking ticket.
Mine took off in the wind
Oh, there you
across the
go.
highway. And Carrie, hers goes down in the dash into the motor mart or something,
Yeah, it's the best thing, and I know this because I used to drive.
the visor.
The visor, okay, you put your parking permit there, put an elastic around it. When you put your visor up, it's hidden. When you put your visor down, the person that's going around to check to see if you got a permit, it's showing when you put the visor down. When you're not using it, put it up.
Exactly what my dad did.
They went into a fairly aggressive advertising spiel. Reminding people, don't do this, and that it's a big ticket if you're caught. You know, and placing people with disabilities at risk by taking the parking spaces. Do you have any feeling as to whether or not that'd be good, or it would be worthwhile to repeat it, or was that kind of a,
Was that when we did it a couple of years ago in the Sioux?
yeah?
I don't think it resulted in any difference. A couple of years ago, we did do a bit of a social media on Respect the Space, which is the access aisle, to
Yeah.
educate people what an access aisle is for, so not to park on it. And we have tried a few different things over the years. We've tried a few different, when Rogers was Shaw Cable, we tried a few different educational videos that way. And I've really not, over the very many years, that I've been driving with an accessibility permit, I've seen no change. No change in driver behavior.
I do agree with your earlier comment, though, which is, it looks like, well, we only gave 40 tickets last year. But the guy who's issuing the ticket has to be there when the other person's there and they're running in and out for 2 minutes. Sometimes that 2 minutes is 2 hours, I get that.
Yeah.
right? And that's really difficult to enforce.
Yeah, so I think it's gonna take more discussion with staff on trying to come up with a strategy that will make a difference. I don't know what that answer is,
I
though.
know what the value of the ticket is.
$300.
That's what I thought. If you get a $300 ticket, you're probably not so enthused about parking there. At least if you go back to I'm sure we have people doing it every week at the John Road Center, the same people are going back. Because 90% of people aren't doing it. But that 10%, yeah, that's how I just made those statistics up.
Those were
Did you
good.
notice that? Yeah. If they pick up a $300 ticket, maybe that they can move to the other 90% side.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, go ahead.
One option could be looking at, providing the police with.
I think they have, well, some of the employees.
Some of them do.
Some of them do.
That's all the city facilities, probably the best.
Particularly the evening employees, which seems to be where the problem is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What if we took a picture with their phone of the car with the license plate?
We sort of explored that with the John Roads, as Peter
Yeah.
spoke about earlier, because it's happening in the evening and staff aren't there to ticket in the evening. So we talked about, what if we had a video camera, that can clearly see the accessible parking and, no visible accessible parking permit. And we sent that idea to legal and they said it was basically impossible to legally ticket.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because
What if
there's
we
too many
just gave them the
variables.
illusion and not tell anybody that it's a fake camera?
Or try to ticket, and if they pay it, they pay it. If they fight it and win, they fight it and win, but it's still a bit of a hassle for them to have to deal with it. So
It is, it would be a
That's a
hassle.
good strategy.
Yeah.
just,
Ticket.
right? Yeah, and let them figure out what they're gonna do.
That's right.
Put it on Facebook, the picture, and just let, it handle itself.
Are there staff trained at
Legal
the
department might have a.
NCC? There must be. Like, I'm sure I'm trained.
Cal
there
lady.
must be.
Yeah, there's gotta be somebody.
Sorry,
At
I'm
the NCC, Diane, like.
at the MCC, I'm fairly certain Chad will be. And I'm not sure if there are other staff, some of the
Okay,
other
'cause
staff. at the
it must be
NCC.
happening there too, but.
Oh, I'm sure it is as
Like-
well.
The Chad wouldn't be there in the evening.
No,
See, yeah.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah.
Great, go ahead.
Well, that is actually a take on that very notion.
Yeah.
Deputization. I understand, now, I'm not an expert on city policy, so it has to be someone at a management level. Because I'm wondering if we could deputize someone who takes an evening shift.
Yeah.
I don't know what again, this is not my area of expertise about the protocols and what the requirements are under city agreements. I'm not suggesting breaking or bending those, but perhaps that's a gap, because it appears to be happening in the evening hours more than during more than daylight hours, perhaps, I'm not certain, but using Diane's example, Ms. Gerhardt's example, that seems to be, when it's occurring. And when we had the amount of that ticket raised, when we first started this, I don't want to tell you how many years ago, the ticket went from $50 to $40. That was work done by this body's predecessors. But I can tell you I think there was a full meeting with the police commission that caused quite a little bit of a stir, if I recall correctly. Because I don't think the city police board had really looked into it. Not some, not,
Those were in the old days when the police issued parking tickets.
yes, this was a long time, but it created a bit of a stir, Don, as I recall.
Police can still ticket,
They just.
but they just generally don't because they are their time is so used in other areas.
What about security for some?
Yeah, here.
I just wanna give you an example of why that's a problem, is because you could have an employee that works during the day. But let's say you have a student that is just starting out. They work there for 3 months, you've taken all this time to deputize. But in the evening. And they say, okay, I don't like this, Josh. Here's my 2 week notice, and we're stuck doing that again, so. That's why we probably don't do that. To begin with, but for a union worker. Like,
We definitely wouldn't deputize students
okay,
for that role.
we would have to have a city employee paid for the evenings to do it, and nobody's willing to work on an evening, let's say, then we can't get it done.
But we do have employees. that
Yeah.
we-
Yeah, we'll shift
Yeah.
it, scheduled in the evening,
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Well, I was just thinking the group health center, you know, where Life Labs is, but across from the hospital, it's security that gives the tickets there, and they're always checking. Not, well, for accessible parking, but also for unpaid parking. But I mean, there's security everywhere now. Basics has security, so maybe they could be responsible, because the security would be there until the store closes, you know? It's not feasible for every place and every location, but maybe some of them.
Good idea.
Do we have any security people at the John Road Center or the Northern Community Center?
I don't think
City
so.
Hall we do now.
Yeah.
I don't think, surprisingly, I'm trying to think, I was there, I'm at the rink lots of nights a week, and I, from time to time, you see someone there, but not regular.
No, that's right.
Yeah. The other thing too, we could ask for is, you know, that loop they played at both,
The
NCC.
non-smoking notice.
Small, yeah. Yeah, and I wonder if you could add something else to that. loop.
Oh,
Yeah, do
that
not
would
park
be good,
inaccessible. Do you
Yeah.
realize a parking ticket is $300?
right, and we are
It's
watching you.
monitored, or, yeah,
Yeah, just lie.
yeah. Yeah, I don't know.
No, it's,
That would be, that would.
it's offering a warning, council. It's
Yeah.
not a lot.
Yeah, but that would be easy to do, is just record that whole thing in.
One would think it'd be easy. It should be easy, but
They've used the same.
It's a good
recording
idea.
25 years.
Yeah,
Great
yeah.
idea.
Like I used to
Good
be,
idea.
I used to be an announcer at CGIC, yeah.
Some good ideas,
Yeah, really.
some very good ideas.
Recording idea.
Yeah.
Or even have it on the Jumbotron or whatever too, or somewhere like,
GFL.
yeah,
Do before a Greyhound game,
yeah,
maybe during the intermission.
yeah.
That's brilliant.
Or even just signage.
Yeah, but people in this town. Yeah, they don't, take time
Well.
to do that.
Too many signs.
exactly.
For the agreement, ignore them.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's, people know what they're doing. They do it.
Yeah.
They're doing it anyways.
They do.
But do they know it's 300?
Yeah.
That's the signage we need.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
And when
right.
it's said, it's all of a sudden you feel like somebody's watching.
Yeah.
Okay, I want a cigarette. Oh, no, guess not.
And we're putting a tariff on it, 300.
Right.
104%.
Somebody had to
And
say it.
$108.
It's going up every day.
You got it. And there's no negotiations here. Okay, anything else on accessible parking tickets? Because that moves us up to our site plan committee report, which I'm gonna turn over to Carol or Carol and Diane, or however it is. I have to tell you folks that they arranged a 4-hour working session for us. And so we had this marathon session down at the old John Road Center and covered a lot of topics. So Carol,
Yeah, so we've got the site plan committee. And we also have the site plan working group. And the reason we have that is we only have 2 hours for our regular AAC committee meeting. And sometimes we might get on a topic that ends up taking up the whole meeting, and we're running out of time, okay? And some of those things we need to get into more detail with, we need to discuss it, we need to figure things out. So that's something where we can deal with it in the working group rather than the AAC. So if a pointer comes up, we'll write it down and we'll think, okay, we need to discuss that at the working group. Now, this site plan working group, anybody can join if anybody's interested in joining this. Okay, this is where we can really voice our opinions. We can figure things out. So we did have one. And I think it was a week and a half ago. And some of the topics are, so that you have an idea what this is about, okay, is the priority intersections for countdown timers. Now, we sat and we discussed it and we came up with 7 different intersections here in town that we feel may be a good place to put these. The other topic was the APS criteria. And I think we had 9 different pointers on that. Now, this
Carol?
would be,
I'm gonna jump in and ask a question. What's APS?
well, they changed it as far as I know. It used to be audible pedestrian signals, but now I think it's accessible pedestrian signals.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so now this is the button when you go to a corner and you push the button to cross the street. We need to know when you're walking down that street, always kind of pay attention, even if you don't use it just for the sake of the committee, for the sake of the criteria. Think about it. Is the arrow pointing in the right way? When you push it, can you push the button? Does it work? Does the locator sound, the tick, 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 to guide you where it is? These are the little pointers that we want people to keep an eye out. And this is for the APS criteria, okay? And the other thing is, when we do site plans, sometimes we'll meet with the developers and stuff. And it's accessibility suggestions that we can give to the developers. So, and this here, we're still working on this, so we don't have quite this part here complete. But this would be things like maybe a ramp should be there, or maybe the light should be better. Outdoor lighting so people can see. Maybe the parabus. Is there enough room for the parabus to pull in? It's all these little pointers that we need to put for this accessibility suggestions to the developers. The other thing is, we discussed was the feedback from the transit study. And a couple of the pointers we came up with was to eliminate bus on demand. The other thing is, we suggested to extend to weekends, the community bus. Okay? And there's a couple other things, okay? And then after that, we had discussed the GFL. We had a discussion on this one. There's a couple of problems with that. The path of travel to get into the building sometimes is blocked, either by vehicles or the big buses for the teams, okay? And the elevator, the servers are using the elevator to go up and down, which is preventing the people with disabilities to get on that elevator. They have to wait, which sometimes makes them late for the parabus because the parabus drives away thinking that they're not coming. Okay, and the other thing is, and there's a few other things we discussed about that also that's on that list. And then the last thing is, Accessibility Week is coming. And we decided a few things, ideas, what we'd like to do. And so, and it was successful last year. We all had fun and everything. So this year we figure, rather than having it indoors, we'll do it outdoors at City Hall. Because if you walk around City Hall, you've got pretty well every obstacle you can think of. Stairs, ramps, everything you can bump into. So myself, I would have a pair of simulator glasses. Somebody can put them on. And this is for, I'll get to that part after. So you put the simulator glasses on. You grab onto that white cane. You will have a guide with you. You will definitely have a guide with you to walk you around that building. To see if you can make it. The other one. So Diane would have mobility devices. So you can take one of those mobility devices and you can go around City Hall and see what the challenges are. Now, we would like to, all city staff to try it, actually take it and go and do it
Inside the building or?
outside.
The
We did it inside,
Here.
now it's time to do it outside. Where the stairs are, where the ramps are, where the flower pots are.
Okay.
Okay, to actually do it, not to just watch everybody do it. I'm gonna have all kinds of white canes, line up, I'm gonna pass them out. Okay, it's not gonna be none of this, well, you do it. Well, what you do, no, you're gonna actually do it, so everybody knows, and everybody here is invited. Okay, because you really don't know what the person's disability is if you don't live it and you don't experience it. Okay.
When's the date? Are we thinking?
The 27th, did we decide? or-
Actually, when I looked at booking rooms, it'll end up being Friday, May the 30th.
Okay.
From 10 till 12 in the Russ Ramsey room. But then we're counting on good weather because we want to go outside.
You wanna do the rent, or do you wanna do it like we had last year in the foyer?
Nope,
No, I think
Okay.
so, Russ Ramsey, and it will be interesting for people to experience the elevators as well with vision loss and with
Okay.
mobility loss. And then we also talked how it might be really important for our mayor and city council to participate. So although this activity is from 10 till 12 to 1, we'd love for city council, if they're available, to join us on their
So
lunch
we can
hour.
announcement at the April meeting, which gives them lots of time.
Yes,
It's April 29th,
April 29th.
And there's the other one on May 12th.
the other one on May 12th. I will not be at the May 12th.
And we did something last year too, I think it was like a coffee break and we
Yeah.
found a way to get staff to get in there and
Yeah,
it actually resulted, like, going outside in the wheelchairs, resulted in a change to some of the ramping. Like there was a real, it did move the needle a little bit.
Yep.
And on that as well, it just had me thinking about the James Walk. Remember when
Yeah.
Nancy did the James Walk?
It's the
and
first
we went
Saturday.
down, so it's May 2nd.
Yeah.
Weekend. Now, I think the walks are generally lined up. I think there's 8 of them, but again, years ago, I think it was with Nancy, right, Dawn, that we did that one?
yes, it
Where we
was with
walked- we
Nancy.
Went downtown,
Yeah.
mayor, there's a couple
Yeah.
of counselors. So we could potentially look at doing something on the Friday as well, but
I'm
you and I can chat about
I'm
that.
gonna
Sal's working
host for Jane Walk this year. So Rachel Silva, who's our manager at G for G and C for G, and Georgina Nacarado, they're on the, Georgina's part of everything. They're on the committee. So I can reach out to Rachel if you like and say,
And Sal's on that as well.
is Sal on that committee? Okay, cool.
I do want to point out though, disability is not just about wheelchairs, it's about vision loss, it's
Absolutely.
about
We could
hearing
do something
loss.
with Vision loss.
It's exactly, like last
It's
year,
about autism when you don't
Everything.
know, because there's not a light anymore at East Street that you can't walk, so you stand there with your dog. Yeah,
oh, you seen me?
that's my kid with my dog.
Oh,
He
well,
can't
yeah,
walk there anymore, 'cause
yeah,
he can't cross.
yeah, I
Yeah.
kind of experienced something similar. But that's a whole, one of the pointers I want to bring up anyway,
Yeah.
but, yeah, so I just want people to be able to experience all disabilities, okay? That includes chairs and white canes, okay, hearing, everything.
Mhm.
And I just wanna,
Yeah, and we'd be happy to have more activities, except that our little working group doesn't have the capacity to design a big
Yeah.
event day,
Yeah.
you know?
Mhm.
So we're sticking with the things that we know the things that we can confidently deliver with staff and council.
Mhm.
We will also have, a couple of walkers, because if, the use of a walker, as, our committee member Wayne can attest, is different from using a wheelchair, trying to get through a door that doesn't have a door opener and has a really tight closer. And it's a whole different ballgame. So
And I should know this answer, but is this only for city staff or is it open to the public?
only city staff.
That's a good plan. If
Yes,
we open it to the public, we'll be overwhelmed.
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
And it's city staff that we're responsible for training or
Yeah.
for teaching or for having them learn by experiencing.
Mhm.
So that's our goal is city staff
Yeah, and you want
and
them to get an appreciation.
council and mayor and
Then
council,
they'll make
yes.
better decisions.
And see, I feel also that city councilors all should come, because they're the ones that have each ward, and in each ward, there's handfuls of people with all types of disabilities. And these are the people that we rely on to represent their wards, okay? And if they don't experience it and they don't know what it's about, then I don't think we're getting true blue results from the things they decide. And if they're the ones that are gonna make final decisions on certain things, they need to know, okay, exactly what it's like for people with disabilities. And last year, when we had our event at City Hall, I am very thankful that the people at City Hall, the staff and everything, they understand. They're learning all the time and they're willing. Okay, but the city councilors have to show an interest. They should be coming. They should be trying it out. And my suggestion is, and I know I can't do it, I was told, but my suggestion was, next time they have city council, we will set an obstacle course outside the door, and they can't get into that council meeting until they go through that obstacle course.
With a cane or a wheelchair.
Once they get inside, they can do whatever they want.
I think a late night. We
Yeah.
don't need more late night.
Yeah, and that's why I can't do it.
Apparently you can't interfere with a meeting.
But I tried.
Out of curiosity, sorry, go ahead.
No, is it? No, excellent, but I also think keep it manageable, folks. I mean, we've tried broader events. I think they can work under certain circumstances, like the Jane's Walk was a good example. But let's not overburden, we only have a small cadre of folks to do it. Let's not make it. Put your promise and your delivery together. I've been in a couple, we tried a couple of citywide trainings that a couple did not work many years ago because we went too broad.
Yeah.
That was an expensive lesson. Not financially, but it was just, we had an opportunity and it didn't, because we tried to do too much. That would be.
We live this every day. Every day we live this. This is our life. Every single day I'm out with my cane or my dog. Every single day somebody's out with their chairs and their walkers.
Yeah.
So, sometimes the people that are in charge need to experience it for half an hour.
It may be worthwhile not to make a lot more work for people. I mean, I know that this is largely voluntary driven to start with, but last year, I think we had 0. I was in Halifax last year, listen there, we had 0 counselors.
No.
I was there.
Congratulations.
I had a photo to prove it.
All right, good. I'm just wondering if it's, let's do this. And then let's ask council if they'd be interested in a session just for them.
Yeah, for some of them, like Craig Gardy, because he's a principal, it's really hard for him. You
Right.
can't, like, you can't leave the school, right? Like,
Right.
it's-
We could do it at his school, so the whole school is aware of disabilities.
If he still have whatever he used to be St. Patrick's,
He's at St. Basil's, yeah. Yeah,
so. Yeah, he can't hurt.
so he literally can't,
Can't literally leave the building, there are, under the Education Act,
yeah, he can't. leave.
it gets very complicated for a school principal to leave a building during the school day.
That's right. So you're saying if you're doing it for council members, then they all decide, nah, can't be bothered.
There's a message that,
They're the ones representing
It doesn't
the
matter.
people in the Sioux, right?
Yeah, but they weren't
Yeah.
there last year. What makes
No.
you think they're gonna jump for joy and do it this year?
no, but I think Lisa made a point, which is a lot of the work So they can't just.
Up and leave their
they can't-
desk.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we can invite them for a noontime specific session.
Mhm.
And that still may not work for some,
Yeah.
like Cory Gardy.
Yeah, not everyone's a great writer.
Yeah. Yeah. But I hope we'll be able to engage
so.
a little bit more. That
Mhm.
would be great.
Mhm.
Well,
Yeah.
thanks very much, but I just, before we leave this topic, I mean, we have Dan here. And I'm thinking, can we just back up for a little bit here? Congratulations, Dan. Yeah, all right. I want to back up the countdown timers if that's
Yep.
okay. That's okay? All
Yep.
right. So, the committee had our little working group here, had a pretty good go around that, to look at a number of different things. What's the plan with countdown? Are we getting countdown timers is the basic question?
Yeah, I think in general, the goal is to expand the implementation of countdown timers across the community.
Do we have any now?
Currently have one set on me and correct me if I'm going wrong.
I don't know about that.
I will,
I don't think so.
I will comment on that.
I thought our first were going to be Great Northern Road, Northern Ireland.
I think as part of the street construction build. They put one in there, countdown timers when it's sold.
It was to be, but I don't recall actually seeing any as I'm driving down.
I know,
I
I
drive
walk
there every
in,
day.
I walk
I don't
in,
think I've seen
Is
it.
this Brock Street?
I could be wrong.
yeah.
I specifically made a point to walk down Queen Street from Mullio's to Bruce Street to see if I could find a countdown timer, and I just did it Monday. And I'm thinking the only place it would probably be Brock Street. Oh, I get to the corner, and yep, the buttons are there, and it beeps 3.5 beeps one way and 4.5 beeps the other way. I don't hear no countdown timers. I can't see if there's numbers counting down. I have no idea, but that's what's at that intersection.
Is that the city's game plan?
That's the game plan.
Yeah.
This priority list helps us determine where the best locations for.
Okay,
And when our little working group discussed this, there's two ways to go at this. One, makes sense to have and we don't have no idea how many we're getting here, are we? Like, are we getting 5, are we getting 10, are we getting 1 a year, or like?
And it's hard to even kind of lock down the pricing then. Because it depends on the infrastructures like that, each location. So,
And so it does make sense to do it when you're reconstructing that part of the road anyways.
definitely during reconstruction, that's the obvious, but then we're looking for locations that we can make the biggest impact. So,
We kind of went back and forth because, I mean, on one hand, you can say, okay, well, let's just find the ones that have the most pedestrians. Brock and Queen will have a lot of pedestrians, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
But then the other side, you look at this and say, let's look at the ones that are the most difficult to cross. And that's where like Northern Avenue came in and we had a bit of a discussion. This is just all background. I'm just gonna talk for a minute and then people can say, you're the chair, shut up. That's quite all right, but I'm gonna get to the point sector here. Like that Great Northern Second Line intersection, I don't know how anybody could cross it. And maybe the strategy is to encourage people to cross at some of the other intersections that are close. Like the intersection that goes into the new intersection beside the bakery there that goes into Walmart, which will eventually go into Benzino's new building, which is under construction. That just seems like a safer place for people to cross than actually a Great Northern Road to cross it east-west. Or Northern Avenue, or Wawanosh. Or if you're crossing north-south, Old Garden River Road, Second Line. It seems funny to not put them at the Second Line Great Northern Road intersection, but that is so intimidating for somebody to try and cross. Maybe the solution is we should encourage them to cross that way. I just tossed that out as a thought.
but some of the thought processes behind choosing some of these intimidating intersections, especially with the physical countdown timers, is it could provide those that are uncomfortable crossing because they feel rushed a little bit more comfort because they see how much time is left.
Just still got 10 seconds or 15 seconds or whatever. That would really help, I think, at the Northern Avenue, Great Northern Road one.
So My vision for accessibility or for transportation in the community is equitable transportation options, so regardless of what path of travel pedestrians choose to take. Like provide kind of that comfort as best we can. So with the assistance through the AEC and providing this prioritization, that helps us set the path.
Okay.
Okay, I got a question. Countdown timers. Can you describe how it works to everybody here? And then I've got a question after.
So the visible countdown timer,
And that's my point.
I see what you're saying. So the visible one would visibly show the numbers counting down once the flashing don't walk symbol starts. Is activated, and then the audible signals that the chirping would be heard when the walk symbol is displayed.
So when we're talking countdown timers, 10, 9, 8, 7. At the Pee Wee Arena, countdown timer. This list or this priority list that we're making. What are you looking at? Because it doesn't say audible countdown timers. All it says is countdown timers. Is it going to be audible? Is it going to be chirping? Is it going to be counting down? Or is it just going to be visual?
Is it make audible? I don't want to throw back on the committee, but that would be a recommendation that I would look for through the committee on what the standard is that you'd like to see. Do you want audible countdown? Do you want the chirps and the beeps? That's something that
Well,
all based on the policy is decided.
okay, the one at the Pee Wee, when we all went out and tested it last year, it counts down 10, 9, 8. It's not very loud, should be louder. I don't know if anybody remembers that. Derek?
I put up with it every day.
And you hear it counting down 10, 9, 8,
Yeah, but not loud enough.
but it's not loud enough. Okay, the chirping means nothing because, and it's happened to me. It chirps one way going east-west, a different chirping sound north-south. And I'm thinking, I don't even know what direction I'm walking in. So I don't know what bird I'm supposed to listen to. So maybe it's this bird and I'll cross and I go right into traffic. And it did happen to me.
Me too.
You too? Okay.
Many.
So the countdown 10, 9, 8, 7, 6 is much better. And by the standards and policies and all that stuff, and you know, it's supposed to, and I can't remember, I used to know this off by heart, something about 0.8 something, whatever it is for every beep. Okay, and I keep hearing this, well, you know, it does say, you know, you should have so many beeps for however far across, but after that sentence is written, it also says 0.8 or whatever, or what you feel necessary to cross the street safely. And that's not verbatim, okay? So it's not enough time for us to get across. We need the audible, not the chirping, we need the numbers, okay? Because I certainly can't see them, the numbers being counted down. And if it's supposed to be accessible to everybody, it's not accessible to me. I need the actual counting down and I need it louder. So when it comes to, when we're talking, anytime we talk about countdown timers, I would really appreciate it that we are told if it's audible or if it's visual, because all this time, it never occurred to me until this weekend. I haven't heard that, and I'm now assuming that it's only visual, and that's not accessible, and I don't think it's acceptable.
But I think what I heard Dan say was you guys need to put in writing what you want. Because for us to introduce it, for us to go forward with that, that would be very helpful.
We've mentioned it a couple of times, the countdown downs.
Carol, in writing,
How much
engines don't matter.
visually impaired don't write too much.
Well, no, but
We've got all kinds of people here putting notes down. It's been mentioned a few times,
but
okay?
Again,
So
formality.
I joined this committee because I want things to be accessible to everybody. It doesn't matter what disability it is. Okay, and I can't see to write. I don't have my devices here to write anything, so I have to rely on other people to make the notes, and it's also recorded. Okay, which I really like things being recorded.
Yeah, I understand that, but there is a process. Discussion.
That's not my choice. That's the people in charge here to keep that record, and it is on record. And I could probably go back and pull up every time I've mentioned the APSs have to be accessible, and I've been doing it for 4 years. It was the very first thing that I've started. So
Okay,
I'm done.
okay.
I got my point across, I hope.
Yeah,
If the committee wants as well, that's something that staff would take a stab at, policies all.
well, yeah, I'm kind of curious to know, like, what other communities do with regards to this, so I think there might be some research involved
So
there.
there's a few things that would help us, what type of audible kind of signal we like,
Mhm.
what kind of visual signal we like. Um. How. Say. So those are the things that would help staff and implementing and maintaining. Yeah.
I do have another question. I appreciate you coming to the meeting here. I want you to go away happy, all right? But, I know more and more, and I think we do it here on some intersections. We use we use cameras to determine if there's anybody in the turn lane. And that controls the turn signal. Is it possible to also use cameras to see if there's a pedestrian there? Because that really resolves a lot of neighborhood complaints, and it sort of makes everything accessible. If there's somebody there, then the pedestrian signals go off in whatever format they end up.
My understanding, the technology has been improving with that regard. Some of the issues with that, the pedestrians would have to stand at a designated location typically to get picked up by the camera, which may not be obvious.
Okay.
So with the APS, there's the locator sitting right, so people with vision on disabilities know where to go to activate it,
Yeah,
whereas there wouldn't be that with the camera.
I'm just thinking it would solve a lot of problems like with snowbanks and that. Sometimes it's difficult to get to actually push the button. We're getting there. Okay, other questions on that? Sorry, Derek.
I have 2 comments. One is that I'm sort of back. But when you go on Northern Avenue and go to Princess Auto, that sidewalk, it is too small for me to turn the chair. Right, on that one sidewalk. For me to go to Staples, I have to go through the plaza all the way up to the other driveway that does not have signs or nothing for people to slow down, because the incline is too steep and they're too old at that Princess Auto / Metro area. So if I wanna go to Staples, I have to go all the way around through the parking lot.
Are you talking about the sidewalks on the street or the sidewalks in the plaza?
No, I have to use,
The plaza,
I have to use the plaza,
because the sidewalks on the street aren't.
yeah.
Okay.
Is this the sidewalk on Northern Avenue that you walk across?
Yeah, I feel about it.
Yeah, I think, Derek, if I can, what he's saying is, you know, he comes out of his apartment building and then he crosses where the lights are. And that works pretty good.
Yeah.
But then if he wants to stay on the city sidewalk and go along Northern Avenue, when you cross the entrance into Metro there, the sidewalk has a really steep angle and it's narrow and there's a control box there. It's difficult. So the solution is just to follow along through the plaza. But then when you get to the Princess Auto, there's nothing. And you're going up the little hill to the Great Northern Road and there's cars coming in, and you're all in the same space. Is that basically? Yeah. That's it, yeah.
Does the sidewalk carry on across that entrance? Is there?
Across Princess Auto.
Yeah.
No, it ends at the end of the Princess Auto building. Yeah, it's garbage.
I remember the committee had commented on that when. I don't know, the plaza got put in. Plaza, that they were going off site plan that had been approved. It's on 70 years ago. So we didn't, that piece got missed by us, but in theory, there should have been a pedestrian lane there.
But the other part to that is if we could improve the north, like what we're doing.
Yeah, the issue
forcing it
is-
dark to walk the
Yeah,
private property
there's a
rather
significant
than-
issue at that intersection that we know. needs
Rather
to
than
get
just stay on
fixed.
city sidewalk.
Yeah, so we have some property issues there, I guess, it's relatively big issues there. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a big fix, but it's on the radar. It's probably one of our busiest intersections, pedestrian stand, just with Sioux College and, yeah, that whole corridor is busy.
And that one has a countdown intersection. I didn't know that. See that? I just doing something new.
Well, I don't, is it installed now?
Yes, it is.
Is it?
Cause
Okay.
we called
Yeah,
that day
yep,
that we did that
walkabout,
walkthrough
yep.
and we had them fix it.
On the Pee Wee, but so the Great Northern Road, Northern Ave, we're gonna do a countdown there as well. Yeah, so we got the counters from the developer of, the Cara building.
So the engineering divisions in the process of looking at some kind of a redesign there to make some pedestrian improvements in that location. I haven't seen the final design yet, so I can't really comment on it, but it's.
Okay.
For the record, I've seen so many wheelchairs from their community go across the street, not at a light, just across the street to get to the plaza from O'Garden Road to, so they don't go to the end like you're normally supposed to do. They go across.
Yeah.
So then there's gonna be an accident.
Would they do Second Line and Second Line and North Street?
Finished restaurant?
Yeah,
I think that's on the list.
is it on the list?
Mhm.
Okay, I
Yeah,
might have
it is.
it somewhere.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So like that, all of these recommendations would be based on. Like finding the budget or the prioritization of capital work, but these are things that will just to help make those decisions.
We need the specific recommendation on style. Just make sure we get caught up on, I didn't mean to cut you off, just to make sure that we get the specifics laid out so that the recommendations can fit these folks' format.
Like from a operational perspective,
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of different technologies out there now. And it seems like a lot of municipalities are using different types of technology. So if we can really decide on a standard for our city, that'd be helpful.
Right. That's
And-
coming back to us to make sure we have that specific down.
And on the volume, oh, sorry, Derek.
No, go ahead. No, it's just a question. I wanna make sure we capture what was said today. Because as I was talking to Carol earlier about making sure that we get the specifics down so they can be focused and we don't end up trying to backfill where we made a mistake. The design of some of the difference in the parabus designs can sometimes be problematic, where you did have to deal with things that didn't work as well. So that's just an example, trying to make sure we get our specific correct.
Mhm.
So you need the type of counter device need, like the kind of things we need, that our recommendations can be most effectively utilized. That's what I'm looking at.
Question, Mr. Chair. Go ahead, Eric. Could we not hire an assistant or our accessibility advisor to assist her with all because you're asking us as a committee to have things written. And like I can't read or write, so I can't do it.
but I can sit with that person who has time to say, this is what we need to put in. So there needs to be another staff to assist Diana and help Chris do those recommendations.
I think they're, speaking as a former city employee, to hire additional staff is going to be very, very difficult. But it's basically impossible. It may be possible to get a summer student. But again, summer students come with their own workload because you've got to then train that student and be responsible for that student. If you're in a position where you can get the same person back for 2 or 3 summers in a row, that starts to work. But that's something we're gonna.
Well, we got 3 people or 4 people here that should be taking notes,
Well, and everything's being recorded by.
and everything's being recorded.
YouTube here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I always, after the meeting, I always, I don't know if everybody does this, but I do. I always go back and I listen to the YouTube. And in case there's things I forgot or things that I need to work on for the next meeting, because I'm on this committee for a reason. And I take it very serious. So I always go back and I always listen to it. And there's not, people think, oh, nobody goes and watches. I use voiceover and it tells me everything behind the scenes. Between 30 and 100 and some people watch these videos. And you should be able to see that visually.
That's
So,
very impressive, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
darn too.
Scary.
Yeah, it's not scary. It's out there.
Hey, I have not got a link. I have to get you to send me that link again,
Mhm.
because I haven't got it at my house
The link for what is that?
for YouTube.
For the recorded YouTubes of the meetings.
For this meeting.
Yeah, I generally, they will be in the minutes.
Yeah,
But-
what I'm saying is that when I just say accessibility advisory committee, it doesn't come up on YouTube.
Yeah, it's a little bit
Tricky.
finicky when you do that right after the meetings. Like if you go in today, tomorrow, or the next day to try to find that YouTube link, it's not there. In about a week to 2 weeks, it'll be there.
It is there tomorrow. It'll be there tonight. Cause I always seem to find it. I don't know how it is. But you can't find it on the website the way you're saying, not for another week at least.
So Derek,
Yeah.
if you send me either a voicemail, call me, let me know, just send me some kind of a reminder.
Okay,
I'll dig it up and I'll send it to you.
okay, because that's ridiculous, I should be doing this, I watch council and there's council meeting,
Yeah,
so.
yeah, just send me a reminder of some kind, Derek. Get
Okay.
Ronan to send me an email or just give me a call.
All right,
Okay, I don't know what our deadline, our hard stop deadline is here today.
I think we're 4, because our bus is 4:15. We have plenty of time.
Okay, that being the case, and I don't wanna cut off discussion on audible pedestrian signals and countdown timers.
No, that's why we've got the working group. We can go there and talk about it.
I do think it would be, that's true, Carol, but I do think it'd be useful just to kind of put out to the rest of the committee here for a bit. Our comments on the transit study and the questions of GFL parking, maybe with a little bit of background on that. Go ahead, Jerry.
The GFL parking lot.
GFL and parking, yeah. Well, with regards to transit, the city is doing a major transit operations review study at the moment. And a number of people here I know went to the open house that they had, but our committee is also gonna provide comments on behalf of our working group on behalf of this committee. And the 4 that we've focused on so far, willing to focus on more, are just to end the bus on demand service. People don't think it's working at all and replace it just with the regular routes. So much easier for everybody.
So Dawn, further to that, I was trying to get quite a few of our regular clients at Worship for Good share the same opinion about the on-demand. I was trying to get them to either send an email or go or do, and they didn't. So I'll see, I'm there this Saturday. I'll see if I can get even, I'll write it down and I'll send an email. Like there's probably about 10 of them that use it regularly and say it is not.
And
Yeah.
I had a discussion with the driver and he was very polite, but I don't think he basically said it didn't work out.
My sense is consistently, that's the biggest comment that the consultant in that transit is hearing about.
This was a just idea.
Get rid
Yeah.
of the bus on today.
Yeah, so I'll see how many people I can get on Saturday, because I'm at G4G and I'll just send one
That'd be very helpful.
email. I think, yeah, if I do it then. With
And
them,
it's not-
10,
Yeah.
yeah, and make sure you put the numbers down, 10 people or however many
Yeah.
have said.
And that's how the Canadian Council of Blind did it. She made one form with more than one person's comments.
yeah, that's what I'll do, Carol.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you need a paper survey, I've got some on me,
Okay,
okay?
maybe I'll grab one.
Yep.
Okay, cool.
Can we make a stand on, I didn't see you. Oh,
No, go ahead.
I forget what I was gonna say. You go ahead.
I just found it ironic. I found it kind of funny that they were hosting this meeting and that anyone going, taking Parabus would have to leave half an hour early because the last Parabus was to leave. Or depending on when the last Parabus got to that location, because the meeting went till 7, Parabus goes till 7, right? And I'm thinking, is 7? kind
No,
of early?
Parabus goes same hours as regular transit.
But it was also set up come and go as well. Come and go with a presentation at five.
Parabus goes till 11 PM?
Yeah, same hours, yeah, same hours as conventional transit.
So good.
Yes, yes.
It's okay, yeah.
I can't touch the baby.
Moving on to other comments was to expand the community bus, to the weekends. You're welcome, there you go. To expand the community bus to include weekends. The comment was made that the GPS system does not work for buses on demand for everybody. It's difficult for people to know where they are. And I'm not familiar enough to talk about that at all.
An idea why that is.
Sure, go ahead.
Because what happens is those buses are on a route during the week,
Mhm.
but when you have to go on demand, it's not set up.
Thank you, thank you, Derek, I get it now. I was trying to work that out, but yeah, when they're on demand, they just go someplace. Right, and it's difficult for people to know exactly where they're
So
at.
the GPS is not in use anymore on the city buses. It's a new app. So I received an email from a constituent probably about a month ago.
Mhm.
And I forwarded it to Nicole. And so the person taking the bus is neurodiverse and just started independently taking the bus. And used the GPS to know where to go. And the GPS is no longer part of the transit system. It's a new one. Which
It's not
requires somebody else to
GPS.
forward an app. I'll see if I can find an email. Yeah, so that's problematic. And I don't know why. That's the case.
And are people aware of this?
That I don't believe so. Here we are, here it is. Sometimes when I'm on my phone, because I show an email, it doesn't,
It looks like my phone.
I know,
Just the other thing on that was that with transit, we really want to be able to have this committee, the working group. Have an opportunity to review the options that we're putting forward. You know, and I'll be blunt, sometimes we feel that we make suggestions and then the decision's made. Based on a bunch of stuff that we haven't had an
Yeah.
opportunity to comment on. And the consultants were clear that they're going to come back with a series of different options for staff consideration. We would like to be able to comment.
okay, I found it. Found it,
You can-
it's called the UMO app.
Okay,
Oh,
that's
it's the
that's, everybody has the Umo app now.
Yeah, transit uses the AnyRide site below, or it can be found, I do apologize for this as we don't use Google Maps. It's from Nicole. I will forward
Doesn't everybody use Google Maps?
Not to see. I'll say that right now.
But that's, so it's an app that you can.
It's
So it says
mobile.
regarding Google Maps, our team is currently reviewing it internally as it requires updates. In the meantime, there isn't any ride real-time data, as you mentioned, the UMO app, which is part of the new fare collector system.
Okay.
So
I'll forward this to
I'm wearing one
Oh,
of
that's
those.
an Umo app.
Yeah. I'm wearing, so our cards now are changed over to the same app.
you. Okay.
Are you happy with it? Does it work?
So.
All right, there's a
Okay.
Can you
definite.
repeat that there?
The Airbus, or the cards that we have right now,
Okay,
even Airbus is using these cards.
Right, that's how you pay, Derek, but
Yeah.
there's an app on the phone that you can use to find out
Where
using
bus
the
is.
any ride.
Yeah,
Bus.
I haven't had to use that.
Right.
So I only know there is a card and I haven't had to use. You know, the app itself,
Right.
and it's been up for 2 years.
Yeah, this is so that you know which stop to get off, so using it like as a navigation tool. Like I do that if I'm in a different city and I'm taking transit, or if I'm fortunate, my 20-year-old does it for me, but she does it much better than I do. And then it helps you like get on this, like, metro, get on that bus, get on, so we actually don't have that capacity.
It's good for like tracking the bus. If you miss the bus, is the bus coming? How far away is it? Things like that as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but it doesn't help you to, if you're used to using Google Maps, to know which stop to get off of. And yeah, Google will do like the next bus and stuff like that.
See, what happens with Google is if you build something new, they don't update themselves. So you're looking at old stuff.
mhm.
I sent it to you.
Google does have, not to get stuck on this particular topic for an extended period of time here, but Google does have all the traffic stops on their system. It's just saying, right,
Mhm.
unless they've changed them or.
No, that's the Blind Square event. That's a different app.
No, but
Google has them,
Google
yes.
also
Oh,
has it as
Google,
well,
oh.
yeah.
At least in other cities they do, and they tell you which stop to get off,
Mhm.
which one to get,
Yeah,
which bus
right.
to transfer to, which train to get on.
Yeah.
You could use it exclusively, but I don't know how it is here.
Probably works here too then.
Okay,
What we need to do is I
Does the group have any comments on Parabus? Services? Cause that's part of the study too.
I was getting to that.
Derek has some comments?
Oh, yeah, no, I was commenting on what I used to do, is I used to get on the regular transit to see how the stuff works. I think you need to do that because if something's changed, you can bring it back and say, okay, this is changed, this is not how we need it to be. So actually physically going downtown in my case, go downtown and listen for the stops. If they don't have that, I would be lost.
Huh.
So are you saying now, treating to our counselor, are you saying that the eliminated the system where they,
I have no idea.
okay.
That's operations. I would, a report, like a report from like the transit optimization report will come to council, Derek, when it's all done. And then we make decisions based on that report. But like right now, I don't have all those details.
Okay, cause if they're changing something and they're not asking for the opinion, then there's, yeah.
that's, yeah, you're right, Derek, but if we're still doing it, I mean, that's easy for us to follow up.
Yeah.
Are you talking about the call system?
Yeah, it's,
I think it's still running. It seems to me I was on the bus the other day. I think it's still running. Yeah, I don't think they'll ever take that away.
Oh,
okay,
for some reason, I thought that was legislated. the regulation.
It is,
Yeah.
I thought it was, unless it's been amended on, that's been on.
I'm pretty sure that's.
Yeah, and I think that was what the reference to the GPS system call out stops. People with disabilities don't know where they are because it's not following the route where it does the call out stops on the on demand. And that is the problem with the GPS on the on demand system. But I think it still exists on regular routes. Yes,
That makes sense.
yes.
Um,
Are there any other comments about Parabus and Parabus service and the accessibility of Parabus booking system?
go ahead, Craig.
Parabus drives fast?
The only concern I have is still the 14-day notice period.
Yeah.
I'm able to manage it, Dawn, for regular appointments, for example, my dental appointment, so forth, where I know well in advance. But there's the 14-day requirement limits the spontaneity. That's been an ongoing concern and ongoing problem. I don't know if it can be solved, but we should identify it as a problem or as a concern.
And
Can
I
I give you an
think,
example, folks?
Sure, go ahead.
I had to go to a doctor's appointment and I had to wait in the mail because they called in yesterday and said, look, I gotta go to this appointment. Can you pick me up at the hospital coming here because I didn't book within the 2-week window.
Just,
I'm constantly calling for a service the day before, when I know that things have to be booked 14 days in advance. But if they put the appointment card on a tap board, and I forget it, and I don't see it, then I can't book the 2 weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah, we've identified that, right, Diana, as an issue, and they had talked about. We were gonna look into St. Catharines.
There was
a couple
two,
other-
there was it Waterloo and
Waterloo and St. Catharines, I think.
I didn't think it was somewhere else. There were two towns that were identified that the consultant identified that they provide a good Parabus service.
Okay.
So I don't know what that looks like, but
Chairman.
yes, I've got the two towns.
Yeah, and they talked about
For the company.
certain things that are predictable. They would have windows open at the 2-week period, but then they were somehow reserving spaces for those spontaneous. Like, there's a way of kind of balancing a little bit of both. Now, that's not to say that there isn't gonna be a downfall somewhere else in the system because of that, but there is a way that some of these systems are balancing predictability with spontaneity.
Further to my comment, not to be hypercritical, I mean, it's a wonderful service.
Yeah.
But the 14, as I said, for those things that are predictable. I know when I have I have a dental appointment in June. The booking day to book the bus is already on my calendar. But I have personal control over that, Derek. I don't need to rely on staff to do that for me. But there's something that's predictable. I know I will book on the 7th or the 21st, and that'll be slick as the proverbial greased pig. So that part works really well. I don't wanna be seen as hypercritical, but it's the one flaw with the paratransit system that we can identify is planning for the unexpected, planning for the spontaneous.
Mhm.
And that's the one ongoing, I mean, we could always use more hours, but that's just the one ongoing concern.
I would, it's interesting with the consultant, I said, here's a couple that you could look at, I would go back to the consultant and say, what's your best advice on that?
I think that's how we left it.
I think so too.
We left it.
I was gonna look into it myself out of
Just so that we know.
curiosity.
But
Are you both on the steering committee?
Yeah.
Excellent.
That's, Mr. Chair, that's just one of those things that's been with us for the longest of times. I mean, as I said, for the ongoing. I think we sort of got the ongoing workable. Not flawless, but it's workable. And we're not gonna get, let's not make perfect in place of the usable. and that's. But it's just, that's the one wrinkle that we've never been able to quite figure out how to do. And I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater, that's the thing. I don't want the criticism, it's an ongoing issue that staff have identified since forever. And they will tell you that this is the problem with the 14-day notice period. It just, for those of us who can predict, and for those things that are predicted, that's why I was, for one, transit driver figured it would all be met. 90% of what he did was medical appointments, pickups and drop-offs. He always assumed that would be when the bulk of the service would eventually, as the community ages. Said, because you generally know, medical appointments are booked that far in advance, it's doable.
Have they ever thought about maybe, and somebody had mentioned this to me, this wasn't my own idea, but I put some thought into it, about maybe having a couple of the buses as pair bus on demand, like calling the day out.
Well, I think that's what the consultants were referring to with these other communities, and I don't know that it, like, that they would, there were certain types of trips that you would have to do 2 weeks in advance.
Yeah.
But they would reserve other types of trips for later, but then I think there's a balance in there, right? Because there's only so many hours.
That goes to the
that
hours
they
of service
have,
question.
The service hours, but they did say that some other communities had tried to sort of address this issue.
Yeah.
But that they did sort of caution that, again, throw the baby out with the bathwater.
No, that's not our goal here.
Yeah,
I mean,
but there's a conversation that's happening,
there's
and I think this group will get it.
somewhere in there, we haven't figured out the medium just yet.
But even an incremental improvement is a good step forward.
Yeah.
There?
You really need to look at the floor plans.
Yeah. Agreed.
Smaller buses are going out. Every time they get a new bus, it's the same floor plan, and it doesn't work for Susan Marie. It doesn't. Chairs are too big. Chairs are wider. And these new smaller buses. I was trying, if I would get on the community bus, I would be holding up the community bus because they don't be able to take anybody else in a wheelchair. So we need to look at the floor plans of these new buses that we're getting. Before we.
And Derek, just to expand on that, I think one of the challenges you've had is that the floor is dropped in these new buses.
Yeah.
And so the wheel wells are inside of the vehicle, making the usable floor space a little narrower. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify.
You play ping pong ball with your chair.
Any other comments on transit?
Lots, but I'll leave it.
Okay, all right.
One last element of the plan, or the study, is to look at relocating the terminal.
That's a
to-
popular subject.
It is, and that's why I wanted to, we don't have to have a conversation now but something potentially the AAC may have a unique perspective on that, given the age of the existing terminal, potentially, or not, I don't know.
I just have a short comment on that. I noticed reading the sort of history of the consultant, that apparently he's a big fan of multiple terminals throughout the city. And for people with disabilities, that can be a problem. Getting on and off the bus numerous times, and you're waiting.
Yeah.
So,
I do have one comment about the community bus.
go ahead.
A lot of people don't realize anybody can catch the community bus. They figure it's just for people with disabilities or seniors. Anybody can catch the community bus. Okay, and as the years go on, more and more people are realizing this, and they're understanding what the community bus is, so they're starting to catch it. And it is actually quite convenient for a lot of people. And with the two apartment buildings on the top of McDonald,
You're talking about the two new ones that aren't built yet?
Yeah. Okay, and then you've got, it's called the one across the street from there.
Collegiate Heights.
Collegiate Heights. There's no buses that go there. Wouldn't that be just great to have the community bus go there too and pick those people up? You know, so this way here, the community bus, maybe they'd need two of them. You know, because it is really needed for a lot of these different communities in town. And more people are starting to rely on it now that they're starting to understand what it's for.
And more people are aging and giving up their driver's license if they could catch a bus to go places. But the demographics in the Sioux, it's getting higher with seniors. So there's a demand, there will be more of a demand.
And I catch every bus in town. You know, Parabus, community bus, city bus, all of them. And community bus, there's been times that I do rely on the community bus, especially let's say I'm at Walmart and I've got my dog and I've got parcels and I'm thinking, now what am I gonna do? Sometimes you go and you end up buying more than what you plan on. The community bus works perfect. Yeah, yeah, and I'll probably see me walking down the highway there with the wagon, you know?
Yeah.
But it's just community bus, more and more people are understanding
Yeah.
that, you know, so there is gonna be more of a use for it. And so it's just a thought, just a thought.
Other thoughts? Can we take, go ahead.
Just wanna let you know that at one time, we did look over the plans that someone built. But council turned it down.
Right.
So it's not, they're making it sound like it's new, it's not new to us.
I think that the decision that's new is where we're gonna put it.
Or do you want, or do we collectively want to relocate it at all?
Yeah.
I think that's
This committee had comments on the proposed new
right.
one,
Yeah.
on Huron Street, and that obviously did not go ahead.
No.
So. Let's take 2 minutes if we can. How are we doing here? I don't know, my watch gave up here.
Oh, I think it's more like
I need to stand up. 350, all right. Have we got 2 minutes to talk about the JFL parking here? I don't know anybody did.
We could,
Did you have something else you want to talk about?
we do want to talk about this
This room.
space.
Okay, real short, what's this? Okay, JFL parking, there are 5,000 people that you can actually get into the JFL at any one time. If you get on, I look back over the last couple of years, they're averaging more than 4,000 people per game. And we have 13 handicap parking spots, which exceeds the required percentage in the zoning bylaw. But basically doesn't. So we'd like to sit down and talk to somebody about that. I don't know what their strategy is, send a letter in, ask for a meeting, send an email. You know, we have
Yeah,
some
we
particular comments on the Parabus, but on that basic issue of. You know, what we're doing is we're ending up having people with disabilities walk quite a ways. Rather than foot.
Do we have a sense of what number we'd like to see?
30.
30?
We did research, there's a report on it. There's an email on it.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Current
maybe.
is what number?
Pardon?
Current is what number?
13.
A
13.
little over double it.
And I'll chat with you about that
Mhm.
and we'll try to figure out.
Yeah.
Where we go with that.
Yeah. I understand, and like, I was part of the group at the beginning, when we looked at this and said, whoa, that's not enough. Parking spaces, very few parking spaces, so we basically doubled it. But we doubled it based on the number of parking spaces we were provided, not on what the demand was. Yeah.
And I think what happens there is that, you know, it's there's not enough parking there to begin with. And what happens is you downgrade the amount of barrier-free parking without sort of making the barrier-free parking whole, because barrier-free parking, you don't have the option really to park across the road again.
That's exactly it, and that was a mistake that was made when we did that design. We should have included more barrier-free parking. Because we can increase the number of the parking spaces without losing that many spaces on site. Anyways, there's.
What about the station mall? I don't know what's going on with the station mall, but if there's gonna be a new owner, can the city make some kind of arrangement during the games that they can have part of that parking lot?
Station Mall has always allowed the city to do so.
I thought the new owner,
Until the,
yeah,
the recent owner that's in, bankruptcy protection,
No.
was ticketing people, I think.
Yeah.
There was something going on, yeah,
Okay.
Man,
he
when
wouldn't let
Exeter
them
had it,
park.
they were like Mr.
Yeah.
Operation, those guys.
absolutely.
Yeah,
But he's kind of on the way out, I think. Well, he is on the way,
he's out.
or he's out.
Yeah,
So I would
bankruptcy.
anticipate that. Yeah,
You had it, don't
Derek,
forget.
did you have a comment on that?
I had a comment on it. Every game that we go to, you see the team bus sit in the middle of the road where at come. People are reloading their vehicle that are putting somebody on, and there's nowhere they can park because there's a big coach sitting right there.
Yeah, we noted that in our comments.
Oh, yes, but that's my vein of my existence.
and we sent those off.
I have not
Not
yet,
yet,
because
okay.
there were two on our list that I have not yet compiled. One was the accessibility, additional accessibility considerations for developers wanting to provide more accessibility or higher level of senior friendly, and the GFL I haven't dealt with quite yet.
Okay.
But they are on my list.
And as the meeting comes to a conclusion, notice I was like, we're doing conclusion there. As the meeting comes to a conclusion, what are people's thoughts about using this room?
I don't like it.
Now, I think
can't-
that's unanimous.
I can't tell how big it is, how loud I have to scream. I don't know where anybody's sitting. I know there's no space in between the tables. Any other,
The tables have to be a square, that's.
Or round in an ideal
Yeah.
world.
Sure, that would be perfect.
Yeah.
But at least a square, because Wayne is really far from, you know,
Right,
Dree and that can be hard to hear. And our voices project forward, so if we're in that square, we're better heard and seen, possibly better accessibility.
Go ahead, Blaine.
Just for me, place I prefer is, what they call it, the credit union center, beside Cora, Caliche.
The New Northern Community
Yeah.
Center, yeah.
Yeah.
And that was a nice building because it was enough, we had enough space around it.
Yeah.
The acoustics were terrible.
yeah,
And we really had trouble, like our ASL people really had trouble hearing what people were saying.
Right.
I really like our old place.
Me too.
I like our old place too. It's too bad it's not bigger,
Yeah.
you know, a little bit bigger.
I think we can do things to make this space better.
This-
No, the accessibility center. We've got some cupboards that could be removed to increase our footprint, our usable floor space. And we can do something about the sound.
The sound is so much better now.
It is with our, because I made some adjustments to our speaker.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, yes.
Yeah,
so
the
it-
roads is still potentially an option.
And it's convenient, like if you're on the power bus, there's a shop right there.
Yeah.
And I could walk there and walk home,
Right.
me and my
Yes.
dog.
I've been encouraged to take a look at the Bay Street Seniors meeting room. So I will do that. I will take a look at that and see if that's a viable option. But at this point, I think we can commit to going back to the accessibility center unless I see the Bay Street Seniors space to be an amazing option to give a try.
That's not the one that's upstairs. You gotta go up that ramp, right?
Oh, no.
Oh, okay.
No, main floor, and I just need to see the space to see what.
They
it
have
looks
their
like.
budgets, I
What was the
think.
issue
Yeah.
there? Was it existing programming or was there something with the Wi-Fi?
At the Bay
Yeah.
Street? They don't have the technology. At the Bay Street main meeting room, they have the same as this. We have the same problem with the projector and a screen. You can't really see anything on the screen.
Turn some lights off.
And Yeah, and then is it accessible inside for the members here? But that could be fixed if the space was appropriate, if the sound was appropriate. If that all worked, you know, we've got the technology at the accessibility center that could be moved over to that space. But I'm just not convinced I mean, I really need to be convinced before we experiment with another space and become frustrated. So I will take a look.
Are we officially taking this off our list?
Not officially until our next meeting. We'll know at the next meeting.
Okay.
Because it'll either be at the Bay Street Seniors, we'll give it a try, or I'll look at it and say it's not gonna work and we're at the accessibility
Well, you mean
center.
this?
I mean, this thing.
Oh, this one is off
Yeah,
the list.
yeah.
This is off the
Yeah,
list.
go ahead.
I like the Bay Street Center because if the bus is late or if you're waiting, or we finish early and you're waiting longer for the bus, it's a nicer space to wait. And they are gonna be looking at doing coffee there and places for people to just hang out. I like that part. I don't know how accessible the washrooms are. That's my only thought, but we attend as deafblind groups. And I believe it's working well enough. Diane, do you
Yep.
agree? Yeah.
I
in
think
terms
the
of
washrooms are
accessibility.
okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, it seems to me they're okay.
Yeah.
I'll go take a look very soon.
Yeah.
You and Carol and Dawn meet together and discuss it more, because I had some ideas for that space. You know,
Sure, we can have a meeting in that space. That will certainly make life easier.
And I think the tour bus is coming
4:15.
4:15.
4:15, so yes, we are 4 o'clock now, I believe.
Thank you very much. Can we have a motion to adjourn? By
Jeremy,
Jerry and Bree, thank you very much.
And I should,
Thanks,
quick
everybody.
announcement, so Stephanie Perry, I think the group knows, has moved on.
Yeah.
She's now working, in a different department, got a promotion. So we've hired Kelly Legault, is the lady's name that will be, who has replaced Steph. So she'll be our lead with site plans, site plan control applications and administering those. And so I think Nicholas, he will still be the planner.
And Jonathan, came through.
And Jonathan
Our
as well.
meetings, it was very helpful, actually. Yeah, see, and kind of understands what's going on. on the site. Jonathan's getting very good
Find
at
something.
Yeah.
answering questions.